G'day guys, welcome back to the Boundary Riders Podcast. This is episode 6 now, and we're just coming into round 5. Of course, last week we had a couple of upsets. I think Brisbane beating Collingwood was a pretty big upset. The Crows just dominated last week, looking pretty good at the moment. Port Adelaide with a 1 goal, one last second win, which we're not going to talk about today, obviously.
Oh, yeah, we are. We're definitely talking about it.
Yeah, but it's a good win by Port in the end, and I think Sydney very poor. Geelong finally got their first win as well, and yeah, it was a pretty big week. We'll probably won't spend too much about last week, to be honest, because by the time this goes out, it'll probably be the start of the next round. But I did want to talk about one thing with you today, which was the concussion. So concussion was probably one of the biggest things that happened last week in the round. Paddy McCartan, probably, I'm sure everyone knows what happened to him now. He's got concussed. He hit his head on the ground very innocuously. It was didn't seem like there was much in it, but he was down and he was out for basically as soon as that happened. And I think everyone was pretty worried when that first happened. And he was out of the game straight away. I think a lot of people have been asking the question, could he play again?
Yeah, I'm not going to say yes or no, but it's up to him and what he feels is best. But it's getting increasingly unlikely that he will, in my opinion.
I mean, it's pretty hard to just... On both sides of it, it's pretty hard to come out and just flat out say you can't play again. But on the other hand, is he in the state of mind to have a mindset to say, oh, I can't play football again?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, his whole life, basically, I mean, when you're going up as a young kid, he was the number 1 draft pick all the way back for St Kilda in, 2014. So, I mean, his life has always been football. And he finally got, I mean, he probably thought it got taken away from him back when he got delisted from St Kilda. I don't know if he can go through that again, so I don't know what's going to happen. The thing, when it did happen though, like, it was so much of an innocuous hit to the head, but he looked like he just like went 5 rounds with Muhammad Ali. He could not stand on his feet. The two medicos had to hold him and walk him off. I think it's pretty hard to write him off and say he can't play again, but to basically have to warn him. I think a lot of people made a good point about the fact that if he does want to play again and the doctors say he can, he has to sign himself off as saying like the club is not liable for me playing on.
Yeah.
Which I think may be the only option if he wants to play again, and that means that a club has to be, willing to put he's willing to put his neck out and say, I will not take responsibility. I'm taking full responsibility for my health.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that's going to happen. I hope that Paddy McCartan's okay. I mean, he's going to miss this week, of course. So did Tom McCartan as well. His brother got a head knock in the same game.
Yeah.
So Sydney have already lost 2 big players, which is like the least of their concern. But
3 if you count Buddy as well. They lost 3 big ones.
So Sydney have lost them 3, but I don't know. I don't think that's really on Sydney's radar at the moment. I'm sure they just want their players to be okay, but I don't know. We'll see. I think Tom McCartan, if he's okay, he'll come straight back the week after. But I think Paddy McCartan's going to be at least a month before they even consider maybe bringing him back.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think now we'll move on. And of course, this round coming up is Gather Round. I hate the name of it.
Yeah.
But, it is here in South Australia. It's going to be really cool. We're going to be going to all the games in Adelaide Oval. I think considering they just stole it from the NRL, I still think it's a really good concept.
Yeah, it's a good concept. And did you hear about all the Melbourne supporters, Victorians?
What? I saw one comment say, like, I don't understand it. Don't Victoria get 5 games a week? Isn't that the exact same thing? And it's like, no, you get 5 games a week because you have more than half the competition in your fucking state.
They're complaining about, like, the last game of the round, Collingwood St Kilda, how that's here. They're complaining, it's such a top four match up. How is it? It's like, you ask anyone, who would have put St Kilda top after round 4?
Yeah,
not one person would have said this is going to be a top 4 clash.
Yeah, so I mean, I think they're just a little bit annoyed, but
I
mean, you get 5 games a week. Like, God forbid you have to give away 1 round a year, and it's not even a round that you're losing because it's still the same amount of it's still the same amount of rounds.
Yeah,
as there always been. And there's still 23. There's an extra game to play each round, so you're not missing any games. So I think it's just ridiculous. But I think it's really good to see here in South Australia. It looks like we're going to get a bunch of really good games.
There's I think they've said 6 of the 9 so far are pretty much sold out. So it's really good.
Yeah, I mean, they've got to be. I mean, there's 3 games outside of Adelaide Oval: Brisbane versus Fremantle versus Gold Coast at Norwood, and from what I understand, Norwood probably I think they're claiming is like the best outside of Adelaide Oval.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw some footage of the Adelaide Hills ground. It actually looks quite nice.
Yeah,
but I don't know why no one's playing there.
It's kind of the concept of Mars Stadium, I think. That you got the instead of like some of the stands. They've had to rebuild some of it because they're obviously hosting it. They would only hold about 3,000, but they've made it to get it just under 10. So it looks like a pretty good ground.
Yeah, I'm pretty surprised that. If you've realised as well, every single club, the only clubs from interstate, other than, the clubs that are, like, Sydney is the only team out of the, like, rugby states that are playing at Adelaide Oval.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, kind of fair, considering Sydney are by far the most popular out of those 4 teams. But, yeah, I think the Hawthorn and GWS, that's probably deserved to be at Norwood. I think all the games that they picked outside of Adelaide Oval are deserved of being out there.
Yeah, because you got to think...
They kind of got lucky.
Like you got the Richmond, they've got a huge fan base. Melbourne and Essendon, huge fan base. Geelong and West Coast, they do have a big fan base.
Yeah.
So they did pick the right games to play to wear.
I think a lot of good games as well. Like we've got Adelaide against the Carlton. That's already been called as a sellout. That's going to be a great game.
Yeah.
Sydney versus Richmond, I think is definitely a good game as well. Both teams made finals last year. Sydney, made the grand final. Richmond, I think... I've got a bit unlucky in a couple of games this year not winning, so I think that'll be a pretty good game. Then Essendon and Melbourne as well. I mean, Essendon and Melbourne both on 3-1, so I still think Melbourne would win that game. But anyway, then Port versus Bulldogs, both coming off pretty big wins.
Yeah.
So I mean,
that game's, when we talk about it later, is really a statement game for both teams.
Yeah.
To really force them. Yeah.
And then, of course, the last game of the round is probably the game of the round, really.
Yeah.
I mean, St Kilda, top of the table, undefeated against Collingwood, probably the most in-form team of the comp at the moment.
Yeah, just a slip up. Yeah.
Yeah, against Brisbane last week. So. But we'll go into the votes now. So every single week we're giving away our votes for the games that went out throughout the week. It's just a 3-2-1 system, pretty obvious, like the Brownlow, but, more important because I'm making the votes.
And it's not just based on midfielders. Most of the time.
Well, no, this isn't based on midfielders, actually. We've got 3 forwards. Brisbane won this game against Collingwood. I thought Collingwood didn't kick straight, so that probably cost them in the end. Brisbane did kick straight. That probably gave them the points. But Brisbane dominated up forward, and Collingwood, their game plan has always been, we kick more than you, and we're willing to give up. But unfortunately, they gave up too much in that game. Charlie Cameron kicked 6 goals. He had a brilliant game.
Yeah.
Joe Danaher, I think, played quite well as well. And Cam Rayner went up forward for the first time of the year and he kicked 4 goals.
I think like most people have said that it was just a really bad positional change for him. He was always a mid forward and chucking back was just really hampering his development.
Yeah. Well, he was the best player on the ground until 3/4 time when Charlie Cameron lit it up in the end. But with the 3 votes, I gave 3 to Charlie Cameron. He kicked 6 goals. He was always going to get the 3. 2 I gave to Cam Rayner because of how well he played in the first 3 quarters. He kicked 4 goals in the end. And then Joe Danaher played quite well as well. They didn't actually... he played quite well as a second ruck in this game as well, which I did think that he needed to do. I think he can make a lot of impact in the middle of the ground. And I think Brisbane did well to win this game. I think it was just a little bit of a slip up from Collingwood. How they've played in the first 3 rounds, I'm not too worried for Collingwood. They're still my premiership favourite at this stage. But for now, I think Collingwood... I think Brisbane did find a weakness of Collingwood, though, that you have to still have the defensive attributes. Though you're not going to win a premiership if you're going to be kicking... You can't bank on scoring 120 plus a game.
No, and especially in finals. It's just not possible, really. 120 every week.
In the second game, we had North Melbourne versus Carlton. This is the Good Friday game in the end. North Melbourne stuck around for the majority of it, but, the better team won in the end. Yeah. Carlton's whole forwards, they kicked 10 goals between them. So, if you're going to let 2 of the key forwards kick 10 goals, it's going to be pretty hard to stop them. So, in this game, I gave the 3 votes to Charlie Curnow. He got the 6 in the end, so that's why I gave him the 3 votes. The 2 votes I gave to Harry Mackay. Well, he got the 4, so I was happy to give it to him. And the 1 I actually gave to Harry Sheasel. He had, I think, 35 plus touches.
30 again. He's unbelievable, this kid.
He's doing really well. I think it's going to take him at least halfway through the season for the umpires to keep an eye on him. But,
Yeah.
I mean, he's definitely leading the rising star at the moment by far.
Yeah, he'd be leaps and bounds ahead of everyone else.
Yeah, he's played brilliantly. So those are my 3 votes there. The next game was the Crows versus Fremantle. Fremantle are in all sorts. They were lucky they didn't get flogged by more against the Crows, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The Crows did dominate this game. They kicked straight. They won by nearly 40 points, and I think Fremantle are probably the biggest disappointment of the AFL so far this season.
They are absolutely in a hole.
Yeah, you can sit there and say Geelong, but I think the Geelong have just still got the hangover of the grand final. I still think Fremantle are. I think with the list that they've got, they should be doing a little bit more. Yeah. And on the other hand as well, their recruitment of not picking up a tall forward, they should be throwing that money they threw at Jackson at a forward. Yeah,
they should have thrown... with what he's on, you could get 2 decent forwards.
I mean, I don't know why they didn't chuck it at Sam Wiedemann. He played pretty well for Essendon in a couple of games. He's been injured for a few as well. But anyway, in the 3 votes I gave to Jordan Dawson. He played a brilliant game for the Crows. Caleb Sarong, he was the one shining light from Fremantle so far this whole year, really. I think Andy Brayshaw and him have been the only 2. And Caleb Sarong stood out in this game. And the 1 vote I gave to Isaac Rankin. He's actually proving a lot of people wrong, and he's playing quite well at the moment as the small forward for the Crows. He's taken over from, I guess the legacy of Eddie Betts.
Yeah.
And he's doing quite well early. He's going to continue it, obviously, but he started off very nicely. After that, we have the Richmond Tigers versus the Bulldogs. I think Richmond probably... I mean, the Bulldogs dominated 3.5 quarters of this game. It was just Richmond had like an 8-goal in a row second quarter.
Yeah.
So I think that Richmond really should have...
They should have
They should have won, but I mean, they didn't play that well, so they didn't deserve it. The Bulldogs did kick more, and that's why I've given all the 3 votes to Bulldogs players. Tom Liberatore had huge amount of clearances as he always does. He played really well in the midfield. He's had a really good start to the year as well.
Yeah.
Considering people were thinking that McRae and Bontempelli would be the ones to shine since Dunkley's left, it looks like Liberatore has just taken a next step forward, which is always, I think is good for the Bulldogs, but they've got to improve up. I still think they've got to improve up forward. I think they've got to find more attributes to go other than Aaron Norton and Jamara Ugelhagen. I still think Roy Lobb needs to pick up some form.
Yeah. He never really had it at Freo, and he still hasn't shown it much at the Bulldogs either.
But I think one of the top ruckmen in the AFL at the moment is Tim English. He got the 2 votes for me. Yeah. I guess a lot of people could have given him the 1 vote, but he did brilliantly in that game. I just gave it to Liberatore. I thought he did a little bit more midfield work that gave him the votes. And the 1 vote I gave to Marcus Bontempelli. I think he played quite well. He went up forward at times, I think he kicked a goal or 2, but he's definitely influential in the midfield for a lot of this game as well. So that's why I gave him the 3 votes. The 1 vote. Next game was probably... I think it was a bit of a danger game for St Kilda, but they proved well that they... I think there are... I don't think you can call them a contender just yet, but they definitely are proving a lot of people wrong from the season begin, considering they've had so many injuries. They basically have a patch forward line, a band-aided forward line just stuck together with glue, and they've just somehow picked it up.
Yeah.
Jack Higgins is playing really good football, which I don't think anyone was really expecting him to do this year. He's been so inconsistent. But he was the person I gave 3 votes in this game. I think he kicked 5 goals in the end for St Kilda.
Yeah, something pretty impressive.
Yeah, he kicked 5 goals. The 2 votes I did give to Noah Anderson. He played really well in the midfield. It's one of the few shining lights for the Gold Coast. And the 1 vote I gave to Brad Crouch. He's done really well in the midfield so far for St Kilda. I'm giving him he's done really well for St Kilda so far. So I think that you're just looking down because you see the next game coming up. I guess we'll get to it. Port Adelaide versus Sydney. This was pretty poor from Sydney in the end. I think they should have won this game. I think they played very well for a lot of quarters, but they just couldn't put Port Adelaide away. And Sydney kicked the first 4 goals of this game. Didn't have a goal to quarter time, and Sydney let them get back into it, and it's not good enough in my opinion. Obviously, the goal on the siren, I went up like everyone else did, and I thought it was
I looked away because I thought it was home. So I didn't hear. So I was just listening to the commentary, and they said Port win. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people are saying that Ollie Florence should have made the distance, but people I don't think maybe those people didn't watch the game, but it was a huge blustery win the whole night. Yeah. And sometimes people were kicking at 60, and other times people were only getting at 40 metres.
Yeah. So plus also he played a great game with 32 to 33 disposals.
It's probably his career best game.
His career best game. He was probably tired after after the grueling game that he played. So I thought, he missed by a metre. Let's be honest, he missed by 1 metre.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people were saying that Sydney could have touched it on the line. I mean, sorry,
Yeah, well,
could have blocked it
Mills,
through.
yeah.
I don't know if they could have, though. I mean, Aliir from where he was, the only way that he was going to get through was if Buddy Franklin pushed him off the line.
Well, I think it was there. Wasn't Dixon in that pack as well or something?
Yeah, I don't think it was going to be getting through.
Mills wouldn't have been able to stop either of them. Yes, he probably shouldn't have went up when he did, but he was never going to. Yeah, it was never getting there.
I don't think it was going to get there.
Yeah.
I don't think it was going to be pushed through, but nonetheless, I did give the 3 votes to Chad Warner. I think he played brilliantly. A few games that 2 of the 4 games this year, he's played absolutely brilliant football, and if he can keep it up, if he can get that consistency of holding that top midfield prowess for Sydney as the number 1 midfielder, I honestly think you could take out a Brownlow in the next couple of years, but. He's still got to find that consistency. The 2 votes I gave to Jeremy Finlayson, he was inspirational in sometimes in this game, and he did kick the winning goal for Port.
Oh, he did. Nice kick, but it kind of. I just don't like it sometimes when he goes around the body. It doesn't. He
was very close to that post.
He's one that doesn't do it always right. Yeah, he's just not one that kicks it straight.
I still think he played very well against. I think it's one of his best games that he's played for Port. Playing as well as the second ruck. And the 1 vote I did give to Ollie Florin. I thought it was one of his best games in his career. And if you take away that shot on goal, I think people would have seen him as having a really good game, but obviously everyone's going to remember that game from him as him missing the goal. Yeah. So it's a little bit unfortunate, but I do think that Ollie Florin...
And let's be honest, I think that was game of the season. Yes, you can say other games were high scoring, contested, but that was 2 hard teams going at it for 120 minutes non-stop and momentum shifts.
Yeah, I think it was a very good game. It was definitely I think it was the game of the year so far.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, I think it's definitely up there now. After that, we got to the Bombers versus GWS. This game was a shocker.
It was pathetic.
This was this is a mirror image. This is 180 of the Port Swans game. That was close and contested.
And let's be honest, how many did they kick? They kicked 11 goal 22. The Bombers. It was under the roof. There was no wind.
I mean, they had 13 more scoring shots to the Giants, and they won by 13 points. That's how poor they kicked in front of Goal Essendon, but they did pull out the win, and they are 3-1 at the moment, which I don't think many people would have expected. So they're doing okay, the Bombers, at the moment. One person who I think did really stand out in this game was Mason Redmond. He's had a pretty good start to the year for the Bombers. I gave him the 3 votes. 2 votes I gave to Nick Haynes. Finally, I think getting back some of his form that he had in previous years when they got to the grand final, the Giants. So I gave him the 2. And the 1 vote I gave to Jake Stringer. I mean, he kicked 4 goals, 6 in the end, I believe. I mean, if he kicked straight, he could have... I mean, he should have kicked a lot more. I think a couple of misses that he had were pretty ordinary. So, I mean, he could have kicked 6 or 7 and taken out 3 votes. But for me, he kicked 4 goals, 6. I think that Mason Redmond definitely had more of an influence on this game at times. That's why I gave him the 3 votes in the end. Next game was West Coast versus Demons. This is really what the Demons had to do. They just had to go over to Perth and win this game, and they did it well. They won by 10 goals. It wasn't surprising. I don't think there was anything to talk about. I think Adam Simpson is very under pressure at the moment.
Yeah, well, they're not giving him, all he's doing is playing some youth. Yes, it's great to see, but...
I mean, other than Jinby, I don't think they've got very much youth that are playing that well. Oscar Allen is good to see back for the West Coast Eagles, but, I mean, I don't think it's really going to save him in his job. Their game plan... I mean, they beat Fremantle... they did beat... who'd they beat in round 2? They beat the Giants.
The Giants, yeah.
So they beat the Giants, who were... basically played the hardest game of their careers
the week before
in round 1. So I'm not really giving the West Coast a lot of credit at the moment. They're not playing that good a footy. I know they're trying to implement a new game plan, but I just don't think Adam Simpson's the one to do it. So for me, I don't think I don't think he'll last out this year, especially if they keep on losing these games. But anyway, the 3 votes I did give to Petrarca, because he had just under 30 touches. I think he had 29 touches. He had kicked 3 goals. I think as a midfielder nowadays, that's pretty much a top performance. I think he deserves 3 votes. 2 votes I gave to Clayton Oliver. Honestly, he could have got the 3 at this point in the game, but I just gave it to Petrarca because of the goals. Oliver, I think, is definitely leading the charge for the Brownlow early on, like I said at the start of the season.
Yeah.
I think he's definitely leading the charge so far. And the one vote I did give to Tim Kelly, and I think a lot of people are giving a lot of shit against Tim Kelly for how he's performed as an Eagle so far in his Eagles career, but I think this is I think it's probably his best game he's played for them so far, despite them losing by 60 points. He had quite a few touches, he was actually tackling, which is something that he needed to do, play more defensive attributes. But other than that, I don't think that West Coast have much to look forward to this year, and I think when they come to Adelaide this week, I think it could be a fucking flogging.
Yeah, it could be a murder scene, really. It's not going to be a good game to watch.
Yeah, well, speaking of that, Geelong obviously, at half-time in this game, they were down. I think they were down by a couple of points against Hawthorn.
They were down by 9 points.
They're down by 9 points, and Hawthorn, I think, were happy with that. Yeah, because they just stopped at half-time, and Geelong won by 82 points.
Yeah, it's pathetic. It was absolutely pathetic. They played so good footy, Hawthorn, and then they thought, no, let's not do anything. And they kicked nothing in the third quarter, and they kicked 1 goal, 3 in the last quarter didn't matter.
Yeah,
it was pathetic.
I think it was.
And there should be more heat on Sam Mitchell, I believe. Like, I don't care if he's playing youth. They're not showing anything the full game. Like, there was, Will Day, Dylan Moore, Luke Bruce is too old and he's showing some stuff. And the captain.
Sicily, yeah.
And the captain.
Yeah, I think they're going to be struggling, Hawthorn. And I mean, they kicked 15 goals in the second half, Geelong. And if you can't stop a team kicking that much in a game, you're going to get flogged by a lot. And I mean, this week they've got the Giants, which I think is lucky because I don't think the Giants are performing that much better this season. They're performing better, but not that much better. So I don't think they'll win that game, but they definitely have a chance. In this game, though, Jeremy Cameron has had a career best start to the season.
He might be. If they won them more games, he'd be leading the Coleman. He'd be leading both.
He could take it out,
but they haven't won enough games so far, so he's not going to, sadly. But
but I mean, if he keeps on kicking goals, I mean, he's had a good start, and I don't think that many players have had this good a start as a key forward for quite a while, really. Yeah. So Jeremy Cameron's definitely started well. 2 votes I did give to Mitch Duncan. He came back to the team last week, and he was definitely patrolling that back half, which I think he has to do now in the later on of his career. So he definitely took that role. And the 1 vote I did give to Paddy Dangerfield. Probably the best game he's played of the year by far. He's definitely been pretty weak so far this season. He really hasn't taken the captaincy, I don't think, I don't even think he probably was expecting to get the captaincy, to be honest. I think that's maybe a bit of it. He may still be stunned for it, because I'm sure most of the people at the club would have thought that Tom Stewart was going to get the job.
Yeah,
that's what I would have thought.
I think they voted for it, so I think some people wanted him to be the captain, but...
I'm not saying they don't want him, I just don't think that he was prepared for it. I don't think he was ready for it, because the first few rounds, I think it's shown that his performance has been below par, and I don't think that he's been able to handle it properly, so...
Yeah.
I'm not saying that he's going to be the worst captain at Geelong by any means, but I just think I was so surprised to see it at the time that he would get the job over someone like Tom Stewart, who I believe was the captain in waiting.
Yeah, that's what it looked like.
Yeah. But now let's get into our tips for the week. Now, last week, my certainty pick was Richmond to beat the Bulldogs, and I got it wrong again. So I've got every single certainty pick so far wrong. So now I have to buy your bloody petrol. Do you need petrol?
Oh, yeah, that'll be great.
We'll go on Friday and we'll do it because we'll take it. I'll show it in the next episode, podcast. But yeah, who was yours? Yours was
I was the smart one who picked Geelong.
Well, you picked first, so I couldn't pick it.
I think you picked Geelong over. It was the obvious one. It was the obvious one.
Yeah, so he got that one, which I mean at half time you'd have been shaken.
I was a bit worried and
Hawthorn were
then about 3/4 times like. Best decision I made all year.
But this week, obviously, we've got Gather Round, and like we talked about, there's a lot of good games coming this week. I think could make a bit of a difference. How many tips have you got so far?
17. I've had a horrible season.
Oh shit! I thought we were pretty close. We should have been doing this. Well, I think I'm in front of you at fantasy too. But anyway, I got 21. But anyway, round 5, start of Gather Round is Adelaide versus Carlton. Now this is. I mean, the Crows have been one of the better teams so far this year who have lost a couple of games. They're definitely in a good form at the moment with their forward line. But Carlton, they do have Harry Mackay playing this week now.
Yeah.
I think the Crows may struggle against their tall forwards. So for me, I've picked Carlton. But on the other hand, I don't think they've ever won at Adelaide Oval.
No, they've never won at Adelaide Oval. So they're the only team out of anyone that hasn't won at Adelaide. In 6 attempts, they haven't won there. But
the Gold Coast haven't won yet.
Yeah, they've won once. They beat Adelaide last year.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be picking Carlton in this game.
Yeah. I've went the Crows. I just don't believe... I believe... Yes, Carlton have played good football. But I think at Adelaide Oval, the Crows have the better forward line and they'll have the momentum. They'll have the crowd.
Wait, they have the better forward line.
You look at it, I believe they do.
Harry Mackay and Charlie Curnow.
Yeah.
You think Taylor Walker by
himself? You got Taylor Walker, you got Rankin, you got Phil Thorpe the last 2 weeks, you got Rochelle coming through there.
Oh, the last 2 weeks, yeah. Missing the last two Coleman medalists.
Hey, I'm just saying, they will win, the Crows. They'll win. Sadly, they'll win. But it'll be I think this will be the game of the week, I think. This one will be the game of the week.
Alright.
It'll be a good game. And I might be stupid, but I think the Crows, at the moment, this season, they have the better forward line. They don't have the best duo, but they've got the better forward line that will kick them a winning score.
Alright. I'll give you that. Alright, next game, we've got Fremantle versus the Gold Coast. I almost forgot about this game because I forgot they had a Friday afternoon game.
Yeah, it's a weird time.
I don't know why.
It's a weird time.
It's got the school holidays.
Technically, no, it's not. Technically, school holidays start. That's the last day at school.
Then why are they putting it there then?
That's what I thought. That's why I think it's stupid. I thought if you're going to do it, you're going to do it during the first week of the school holidays, and it's the second. It's technically that's the last day of school.
I think they could have just put 2 games on Saturday, to be honest. 2 games on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
Or just put all the 3 games on Adelaide Oval. But anyway, this game I really finding it hard to pick.
Yeah.
The Gold Coast have not had a good start to the year, but they had a really good game against Geelong. Fremantle got a soft kill against West Coast. That's all they've done this year.
Yeah.
My thing is, Fremantle do have a slightly better record here in South Australia, which I don't know if it counts so much playing at Norwood, but I'm going to be picking Fremantle in this game.
And you got to think also, they did play here last week. They played in Adelaide.
Yeah, so they've been here the whole week. They've been able to bond a little bit, maybe.
Yeah.
Let's hope. I'm going to be picking Fremantle in this game.
Yeah, I went Gold Coast. I just think that they've... To be honest, I don't know why I've picked them. I just don't believe that Freo have the forward line to win them a game at the moment. The way they're playing, they have the better defense. Freo, I just don't. I just don't know. I think Gold Coast can. Yeah, I don't know really. I think Gold Coast win though. They might have the better midfield in the better contested midfield. I don't really know.
But you're picking the Gold.
I'm picking Gold Coast. I don't really know why.
The next game, probably one of the better games in the round, will be Richmond versus Sydney. This is a really big game, I think, for both clubs. Both teams are off to losses. Richmond just came very close. Sydney, obviously very close losses, under a goal. Both teams want to be bouncing back this week. Richmond will be without Tom Lynch, and Nan Curvis. Sydney will be without Tom McCartan, Paddy McCartan, and Buddy Franklin. So both teams are they're definitely not playing their best teams. But I think this game will be won in the middle anyway. Whoever can get it in their forward line more will win this game, I think, because I think that's where... Or I think Richmond can win it in their midfield, because their midfield, I think, is a little bit more stronger over the ball. But Sydney's forward line is probably better.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be picking Sydney in this game, just because I feel like the last 2 games they've played incredibly poor football at times, and I don't think they want to stand for that. They do have an okay record here at Adelaide Oval, not against Port, but at Adelaide Oval they've got a pretty good record. So do Richmond, to be honest, but I'm going to be picking Sydney in this game. I think it's going to be a close one though.
Yeah, I think I've went the Swans as well. I think Dan Curvis is actually very underrated. I think he's getting recognition, but not as much as what he should be, Dan Curvis. And that's where Sydney should dominate. They should be able to dominate out from that. And Sydney, just out of the stoppages late in that game against Port, they will want to respond. Yeah. I think the last passage of play where Dixon took it out of the ruck and put it down forward for Finlayson to score, it was just a very sloppy error from Sydney. They'll want to fix those sorts of stuff up now. And I think that's where they'll beat them.
Alright, so next game is up in Adelaide Hills Stadium. Is that what they're calling it? I think that's what they're calling it.
I think it's Murray. It's the somewhere in Murray Bridge, isn't it? I think.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
I don't know where it is, but we're not going to it, so that's okay. But Brisbane versus North Melbourne. I think this is a bit of a danger game for Brisbane because they struggle interstate.
Yeah.
I think if this was in Melbourne, I think North Melbourne would have a huge chance. But for me, because it's in it's not in a North Melbourne like home ground or whatsoever, I think Brisbane will win this game. Just because I feel like it's not. I don't feel like North Melbourne can really take advantage of the location.
Yeah.
I don't think I can pick it on like home ground advantage by any means. So for me, I'm just going to be picking Brisbane in this game just because they're the better team.
Yeah.
That's really all I'm picking from.
Yeah, I've went Brisbane. I think it'll be interesting because like they had all the scrutiny from last week to beat Collingwood. They'll be on such a high, and they shouldn't be able to throw it all away within one game. And you wouldn't think against North Melbourne they would, but also you've got the Clarkson effect. He might be able to inspire his team to win, but I just think Brisbane, just with the runs on the board, they should win.
So the next game after that is back at Adelaide Oval, Essendon versus Melbourne. I think this is a pretty good game. Unfortunately, I don't see Essendon winning this one because they still don't have their forward line with them. They have got a couple of soft kills. They beat Hawthorn and Gold Coast early. But, I mean, they did come back last week. Who did they beat last week?
Giants.
The Giants. So they've had three soft wins, if you could say that. But now they've got a real test against Melbourne. I think Melbourne win this game. They've had a pretty good record over in recent times here at Adelaide. They won their qualifying final back here in 2021.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be giving Melbourne this game. I mean, I think Essendon can give them a good run for their money, but for me, I think Melbourne's just going to be too strong.
Yeah. I think Melbourne as well. But it's going to be interesting, their forward line, because Ben Brown obviously was injured last week and they brought Tom McDonald back in and he kicked 4 goals. So they're going to be a squeeze for positions, but I think Melbourne just look too good at the moment to get troubled by Essendon.
Yeah, the next game is probably two teams who are this will be a real big game for both teams. Port versus the Bulldogs. I think this is one of the, maybe not it's not game of the round, but I think it's the biggest for both of these clubs.
Yeah.
Port coming off a big win, but again, like you said last week, they're a very big response team.
Yeah.
So we actually both picked Port to win that game. I don't think a lot of people would have. I mean, I know they obviously had a good record against Sydney, but I think not many people would have picked that game. But then the Bulldogs as well, they've been very good they've been able to win the last 2 weeks. They probably weren't too good against the Brisbane Lions, but they did claw themselves to win that game. And then against the Tigers, they played, I think they were the better team overall, so they did deserve to win that one. But this one at Adelaide Oval, I think it's a tough one for both teams to pick. For me, I think I tipped the Bulldogs, actually. Yeah, I did. I've tipped the Bulldogs.
Yeah.
So I've tipped the Bulldogs in this game. The reason is because, one, they have a good record here in Adelaide against Port Adelaide. And I think, like you said, the Power are a very response team. If they want to prove themselves as maybe even making the 8 this year and proving themselves as a club deserves a bit more recognition than a response club, they need to win this game. I think there'll be a big crowd there. I'm expecting this as one of the sellouts. So for me, I'm going to be picking the Bulldogs, but I mean, I think it's a big game for both of them.
Yeah.
I think this is an 8-point game, I think, for both clubs.
I've went Port Adelaide. I think after last week, it might mean bloody bugger all, but the way that Port Adelaide really responded, it was a heart-fought win. Maybe we didn't deserve to win it, maybe we did, who knows, but Port Adelaide have to win this game. If Ken Hinkley wants to keep his job, this is the week they have to respond. This is the week they have to win. They responded last week, but like you said,
to solidify their spot as an actual club in a decent.
If people want to take Port Adelaide actually bloody seriously, they have to win this game.
Well,
and they do have the better forward line. Like the better forward. If you look at comparison, Port should win the forward battle. It's going to depend on the midfield battle, the contested possessions. It always has when these two teams come up. It's the contested possessions, clearances, all that. Who's going to win this game?
Yeah. After that, we get to Geelong versus West Coast. I don't really see much happening in this game, but a 60-point drubbing to the Cats.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to spend too much time on this game. I think Geelong will win and win comfortably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you got Jeremy Cameron, who's in career best form. He'll now probably 5 or 6 again.
He could get double digits in this game, honestly.
He could probably win the Coleman off this game. That's how bad this could be for West Coast.
Well, after that, we're just gonna move on because that's an easy pick. But then the GWS Hawthorn, this is at Norwood Oval as well. I give Hawthorn a little bit of a chance here, but I feel like the Giants have been playing good footy at patches. I think the problem is they just haven't been able to have any sort of structure going forward. That's what their problem was last week against Essendon. Also their skill level, but also the fact that they could not hit a target in forward 50.
Yeah.
If they can fix that up to some degree against Hawthorn, I think they win this game pretty well.
Yeah.
So I'll pick the Giants.
Is that your certainty pick or?
Yeah, so this is my certainty pick because it's against Hawthorn. I hope I get one. If I get this one, I have to buy a Giants jumper already. Yeah. So I'm not looking forward to that. But for me, I'm going to be picking GWS to win this game. I think they've got enough in the tank to win this.
Yeah.
And I think they'll win pretty comfortably.
So, yeah, I've went the Giants. The certainty. Dylan hasn't got one all season, but you will get your certainty this week. There's no way a team that kicks 9 points in the second half of a match should ever really be doing anything, really. Like,
who's your certainty pick this week?
Mine's the last game.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, Giants win this. It might not be an easy game for the Giants, but I think they will win.
Well, in the last game, we get to probably, the biggest game of the round in most facets is the fact that St Kilda versus Collingwood, undefeated versus probably the premiership favourite, early premiership favourite of the year, if you could put it that way. So far, they did have a little bit of a slip up last week against Brisbane, but for me, I think Collingwood will bounce back and knock St Kilda off their first game. But I mean, St Kilda have proved everyone wrong to this point of the season, so you can't really. Yeah. If they win this one, I think you give St Kilda a lot of credit going on for the rest of the season.
Yeah. Well, if the Saints somehow do win this, they are finals bound because you'd think they'd only have to win. Well, at least 9 of their last game of their last. I can't remember 5.
So what? There's 5. There'll be 23.
18 games. They'd have to win at least half of their games to make finals if they win this week. But I think they will suffer their first loss. I've went certainty for Collingwood to respond. The ruck battle is going to be interesting. What they do, Collingwood, because they were exposed against Brisbane. Yeah. And Rowan Marshall is going to dominate this game. So it could be interesting. But I think certainty Collingwood should win this. They will respond.
So those are our picks for this week, guys. But for now, we'll get into our last bit of the...
just got the multi.
We'll get into our Sorry, I forgot about that. We'll get into our multi for the Collingwood St Kilda game. So as we know, every single week, Jackpot Junkies over on Instagram, he gives out his multis for every single game over on the Instagram channel, but over on the Instagram page, fucking idiot. But on this podcast, he gives us our game of the week multi, and this week's obviously going to be the last game of the round, so this is our multi for this week. But yeah, you can run it away.
Yeah, so since we're going to the game, we're not going to be streaming it, obviously.
Yeah.
But we've won a pretty good one, I think. Like, most of these players are in form this season and against each other. So I've went Brad Crouch for 25. He's done that the last 3 weeks, and the last 2 times he's played Collingwood. Sinclair, I've went 25 plus as well for the last 3 games which he's done. Noble for 15. He's done that the last 3 weeks. Josh Dacos, I've went for 20. I'm not going near Nick Dacos. I think he might get tagged by Windhager this week. Mason Wood is in career best form, all Australian bound, I reckon, at the way he's going for 20 plus. Pendlebury for 20 plus as well. And I've went Jordan De Goey for at least 1 goal. He has kicked it anytime scorer. He's done that the last 3 matches against the Saints, and he has actually done. He's kicked a goal in 3 of the 4 games this season, and the other game he kicked 3 behind. So he's getting shots a goal. He's getting it. So that's my multi for this week, and hopefully we can round out this gather round with some nice pocket money. And always gamble responsibly.
As always, gamble responsibly, guys. But for now, we'll get into our fantasy for this week. So, do you have your score up?
Yeah,
so
I did pretty well this week.
So last week I got 2,068. So I mean, not the best, but I'll take it. For me personally, I picked a captain which actually scored over 100. I think this is the first time this year I actually did that. So Torino got 114, so he got 228. I was happy with that. Sheasel 119. He's honestly looking like a captaincy choice at this rate.
Because no one of the big players besides maybe Oliver's doing anything really this season.
Yeah,
consistently.
Tom Green got 111, so I was happy with that. My disappointments were Sam Docherty got 74, but we've seen now that he's injured, so I don't know if he was carrying that throughout the game or not. I don't know. Was that an injury talk?
I didn't see. He didn't go off, I don't think, in that game. But
no.
Yeah.
James Warple, I've got rid of him this week and that's one of my bad ones this week. And Connor Rosie only got 69, but he was also tagged in the Sydney game by James Rowbottom, so I think he'll bounce back this week against the Bulldogs because they don't really tend to tag. So, my trades for this week were I got rid of Sam Docherty, obviously he's injured, and I got Daniel Rioli. I don't think I'm going to change the second trade because I think, knock on wood, that Will Day gets off. I think he will, but we'll see how that works out tonight. But I got rid of James Warple and I got Josh Rochelle. Now, the reason why I got Josh Rochelle is because I didn't want to spend too much money in my forward line, because in the next few weeks I want to try and get rid of Chandler, maybe not Chandler, but one of my forward, like 5, 6 or 7, 8. Because, I'm going to have to get rid of one of them soon and try and go for a little bit higher. So, I've had to put Cornelia on my midfield, but honestly, I don't mind. That's all mine, but I know you dominated last week.
I got 2,173. It's not the biggest score, but somehow it was 70th for the round, so somehow I did pretty well.
To be fair, your captain was my vice-captain.
My vice-captain, I did the loophole. I put it on English. I thought he'd dominate. I didn't actually think he'd dominate, but he actually did. He got 145, so I took that as a VC and got 290. And Dacos, he's just dominating, Nick Dacos. Miller responded again with 120, but McGrath, he survived because he survived even though he got 65 this week. He survived for me because I got rid of Will Day. Just at the moment, if that changes, he gets off, which he should. But who knows? That will change for McGrath. And I got Lockie Weller. He's played well to start off for the coming back from the ACL injury. And I got rid of Dunkley. He's just not getting high scores that he needs to. And I got Tim Kelly for the Eagles. He seems to be back into form from the...
Yeah, I was thinking of getting Tim Kelly, but then I was like, I don't want to get rid of McRae just yet. I think he'll have a good game against Port Adelaide.
Yeah, he seems to always, doesn't he?
Yeah, so I'm going to give him that one more week. But yeah, guys, that's this week's episode of the Boundary Riders Podcast. There won't be a stream this week because obviously we'll be at the game, so I won't have a chance to stream. But thanks for watching today. Next week we'll be back to the normal schedule of putting out a stream or two in the weekend as well. But yeah, thanks for watching. Make sure to go check out Jackpot Junkies over on Instagram. And always gamble responsibly while you're over there. And yeah, thanks for watching. But for now, we'll catch you all later.
See you later, guys.